Now we start with overnight news. A lot of police around Yale and Avenida Cesar Chavez overnight. We know something happened at this convenience store. It's near Fairview Memorial Park Cemetery. Albuquerque police were called out here in the middle of the night, hearing a person may have been hit by a car. Then there was another report about a person getting stabbed at the same place. Now, we did see an ambulance take one person to the hospital. Officers who are out there wouldn't say much about what happened. As soon as we learn more, we'll be sure to pass it along to you.
A tense situation unfolding internationally this morning. A crisis in Iraq is intensifying. An extremist group there is vowing to take over the capital in that country. Yeah, it's getting very close, and now the U.S. is sending nearly 100 soldiers and Marines to secure the American embassy in Baghdad. Some staff members have already been evacuated to more stable parts of the country as Islamic militants push toward the capital. The extremist group is called Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, or ISIS. It's already captured a large part of northern Iraq and says it was behind yesterday's deadly blast in Baghdad. The group has also posted some gruesome pictures online. We're not going to show them to you right now. That it says has killed more than 1,700 Iraqi soldiers, executed them. The White House doesn't know if that is necessarily true, but it is considering taking military action.
We're going to have some dialogue with the Iranians that say, let's coordinate our efforts, but put a red line to the Iranians. Don't use this crisis to take territory from the Iraqi people.
Senator Lindsey Graham there obviously saying that possibly Iran has a part in all of this. Iraq says it is training troops to fight back against ISIS. President Obama says he will not put boots on the ground in Iraq, but may consider airstrikes. There are reports this weekend that a U.S. aircraft carrier group is headed that way. The State Department is telling Americans to avoid the country if they can. All right, back here in Albuquerque at 5:03, shots ring out, shell casings line a street, but this morning neighbors are saying that police never went out there soon enough, I should say.
Yeah, but the cops say things were handled differently.
I was awake and heard multiple gunshots.
The neighbor who wished to remain anonymous says she went outside her northeast Albuquerque home early Sunday morning and saw casings all over the street. She says she called 911 not once but twice and says she waited for more than 2 hours, saying cops never showed up. The bullets hit this home and a Jeep parked out front. Now, when News 13 asked police why no one showed up, they said someone did. APD says a sergeant took the call shortly after it came in, knocked on the home's door, but no one answered, so they left. Officers were in the area investigating later in the day.
I feel like as a citizen, I now need to ensure that I'm prepared for these situations to protect my family in the future.
The neighbor we spoke with says that she supports APD fully, but she says she's worried that this department is understaffed and hopes that can change very soon. This week marks the 3-month anniversary of the shooting death of James Boyd. A memorial was held yesterday for the homeless man who was shot to death by APD.
With the sacrifice of his life, he'll make countless people's lives better by the work we do in his name.
That was James Boyd's brother there. The vigil was held at the same place in the foothills where James Boyd was killed. His family shared stories of his childhood. Others talked about the need for change within the police department. Boyd was shot by police on March 16th after cops say he charged at a canine with a knife. Well, today is your chance to weigh in on goals that you think the Albuquerque Police Department should have. At tonight's meeting, counselors are pitching the Albuquerque Collaborative on Police Community Relations. The measure would set aside $150,000 to help rebuild the tarnished relationship between the public and APD by developing goals for the department different than those recommended by the Department of Justice.
We anticipate thousands of people to participate in this historical process, and I think it's going to be critical and vital to the future of the Albuquerque Police Department.
By the way, the list of DOJ reforms is set to be released any day now. Counselors are also tackling another controversial problem that surfaced in the DOJ report on APD, how to help the mentally ill. A resolution on tonight's agenda calls for the city to enter into an agreement with Bernalillo County to implement a housing assistance program for the mentally ill who are recently released from the Metro Detention Center. As much as $200,000 could be set aside for the proposed pilot project.
Santa Fe is set to officially get a new police chief today. The city has chosen Eric Garcia here to lead the department. He's been in law enforcement for 24 years, including 18 with New Mexico State Police. He was also the director of public safety, like the police chief in Espanola. Mr. Garcia replaces former Chief Ray Real, who retired back in March. 48 candidates from all around the country applied for the job. Again, Mr. Garcia's first day on the job is today, right after he is sworn in. He's set to make $104,000 a year. Well, the FBI is now investigating what could be a hate crime in Albuquerque that is now making national headlines. We first told you about the attack on Seyham Jabbar last Tuesday. She tells us a man in a mask pushed his way into her home last week, beat her up, and was shouting nasty things about Muslims. Ms. Jabbar also says the man even tore up the family's U.S. citizenship papers. The family is actually Catholic and left Iraq 6 years ago after being attacked by terrorists there. Investigators, including federal ones, are still trying to figure out whoever did it.
I want to give you a big heads up this morning. A busted water main in downtown Albuquerque could make it tough for people to get to work or navigate through that area. Now, crews are trying to fix a water main break and the sinkhole that followed at the intersection of 2nd Street and Roma Avenue. There are several other lane closures affecting 1st and Roma, 3rd and Roma, and 2nd and Marquette. I want to show you a live picture of what is happening out there this morning. This is it. If you work downtown, it is best to leave early to navigate around the problem areas. Elsewhere this morning, crews are battling the Acai fire and Chusca. Would be the Chusca Mountains. That is on the Navajo Nation near Gallup. Viewers sent us these pictures. The Bureau of Indian Affairs Fire Division says it has burned more than 450 acres. They say it is 0% contained. About 5 people were evacuated. Officials say the fire was sparked after a man was burning weeds. It's unclear if the man will face charges. 3 miles north of Jemez Springs, crews are working to stamp out the East Fork fire there. It first sparked Tuesday by lightning. It's burning about 3 acres of ponderosa pine and Douglas fire on a steep slope. 1 engine crew, a hot shot crew, and support personnel are on the assignment. There's no need estimated date, I should say, for containment. Remember, stage 1 fire restrictions are in effect in the Santa Fe National Forest, Cuba, and Jemez Ranger districts, as well as in the Valles Caldera area.
Well, they don't have any jurisdiction over the Air Force, but today the Albuquerque-Bernalillo County Water Utility Authority is announcing a resolution calling for Kirtland Air Force Base to take specific steps on the jet fuel spill. The Water Authority is entrusted with protecting the community's drinking water supply and drought reserve from contamination caused by the base's jet fuel spill. There is a news conference at 10 o'clock this morning near Louisiana and Zuni. We'll, of course, be there. Let you know what the Water Authority's resolution calls for from Kirtland and the Air Force Base.